Hey, welcome to November from my classroom. I have finished 2 books so far in the month of November. It is the 7th, so that's pretty good. Doing well. I finished reading Emily of New Moon, Emily Climbs, which is the second in the Emily series. Emily of New Moon is the first. I finished reading the second one. It was a reread. It was so good. If you haven't read that series, it's just wonderful. L.M. Montgomery. I'll put a picture of it here. I love the Emily series. I love Emily more than Anne, and I think it has a lot to do with the fact that she has second sight. So there is like a magical element. It's a very down-to-earth, very real, very slice of life series, but there is this added element of the supernatural, or the unexplainable, which I just really like. It's very gentle, but in the second book has a big impact. It actually saves a little boy. So really fun, love it. I like also the fact that the second book is made up, probably about half of it is made up of journal entries. And I always like it when L.M. Montgomery does that. I don't necessarily like it when other authors do that. But when L.M. Montgomery goes into journal or letter mode through the voice of Anne or Emily, I really love it, really do. Anne and Emily kind of feel like real people, and so it feels like reading their real journal entries, reading real letters. So that was a delightful way to start November. And that was the first book that I got on my spin. I am doing a terrible job of only reading one book at a time. I'm reading so many books right now. But I'm having such a blast. And yesterday my hold came in on the memoir by Bethany Joy Lenz, the actress, one of the actresses from One Tree Hill. Her memoir, Dinner for Vampires, came in, and I immediately started listening to it on my walk home yesterday. I listened on 2 times speed, and I started listening at about 4 o'clock and it was done at about 8:30 because I could not stop listening to it. So I got home and I just kept listening while I walked the dog, and I kept listening while I made and ate dinner, and I kept listening while I played with the dog and just kind of like relaxed, got ready for an evening. I just had it playing nonstop. I could not stop listening to this memoir. It was so good. Her story is about her experience with faith growing up a Christian, and how that her parents influenced her in that direction, and how that became a part of her life, her dreams, her desires, and how slowly she's integrated into this cult. And it's so slow, so progressive. It's like that proverbial frog sitting in the boiling water and suddenly you're dead. You just don't see it coming. And then she's totally enmeshed and she can't get out of it. And they're taking everything from her. They're really sucking the life out of her. That vampire metaphor from the title. And it's not sensationalized at all. And she's got such a strong writing voice. This woman is so talented. She's a singer, she's a composer, she's a director, she's an actress, and now she is absolutely a writer. She's so talented. Such a great communicator, and she reads her own story, and I highly recommend it. I literally could not stop reading it. I could not stop. It was unputdownable. Highly recommend that you pick that one up. I hear people all around me, so I'm gonna go. And I'll talk to you later. I'll catch up with you later. I'm about to finish several other books, so there will be plenty more to say. We haven't videoed here very much. It's a Saturday, the Saturday of our 3-day weekend thanks to Veterans Day. And this is just a relaxed day for me. I am reading today, and I did some cleaning and some laundry. And then later tonight, I've been invited to go see a play, which I'm very excited about. One of my former students is in this play. And so a friend and I, who both used to teach her, are going to go and see her in her play at a high school in town that I've never been to. So that'll be exciting. It's called Girls in the Boat, or Girls in a Boat, and I think it is about a female rowing team during World War II. It is not the same story as The Boys in the Boat, which is about a male rowing team during World War II. It is a different story about a woman's rowing team, but also set during World War II, and also a true story. So that should be great. That should be wonderful. And I think a lot of it takes place like in a boat, and they've done something interesting with the staging. I don't know. We'll see. I'll report back. But I'm excited to do that. But before I go out tonight to do that, I am just reading, and I finished Miranda Hart's latest memoir, which is also a look into mental health and self-care and practical ways to do that. In this book, I'll put it here, but in this book, she's talking about her own struggle with not being diagnosed. It was a relief to find out what she had, but her struggle to actually get diagnosed with Lyme's disease. And so she, for decades, was not diagnosed and misdiagnosed, kind of told that she was just lazy, or that it was all in her head, or that it was anxiety or whatever. And so she finally was diagnosed, and it's her kind of journey of learning how to heal. And as she's trying to learn how to physically heal her body, she realizes she also has to heal emotionally and mentally. Not from huge, big, terrible things that happen, but just from the accumulation of the things that happen in life. And I found this book to be incredibly approachable, incredibly hilarious, incredibly applicable and practical, and informative. A lot of it is information that isn't brand new, but she's compiled it and presented it in a way that is uniquely her own, and it's very approachable. So the audiobook right now is all that's available in the States. If you live in Canada or the UK, you can get the physical copy, but the physical copy is being released here in the States in January. I have it on pre-order, and I will be rereading it because there are certain lines and quotes that I really want to underline and share, actually. But I couldn't quite grab them from the audiobook, so I just enjoyed my time with the audiobook. And now that that's complete, I am reading multiple things. I know in November, I'm reaching for my multiple things. I know that in November, I'm only supposed to read one thing at a time, but I failed. I failed from day one, and I'm okay with that. So I am currently reading Blue Lily Blue by Maggie Stiefvater. This is the third in the Brave and Boy cycle. This is one of the ones that the wheel picked for me, and I actually am reading this in the order that the wheel picked it for me. I am also currently reading from the wheel, A Fragile Enchantment, which I had on audio and on my Kindle, but I purchased it because I was enjoying it so much, and I knew that I would want to own this. So I am reading A Fragile Enchantment, and that is one that the wheel picked for me. And now that I've finished my Miranda Hart nonfiction, I am picking up, since it's Nonfiction November, I'm picking up the only nonfiction that the wheel picked for me. So I'm reading this out of order from what the wheel said to do, but I'm going to do that. This is Stalking Shakespeare by Lee Durkee, and I'm starting this today. And then not on my TBR this month, but it has been on multiple TBRs, and suddenly I was just really driven to pick it up. I have started reading Spark of the Everflame by Penn Cole. Lola also started reading it. I don't know if you can see, she's like chewed it up here and she ripped a corner off of it. She hasn't done that. Hi, she's right here. Hello, little bug. She hasn't done that in such a long time, and I don't know what caused her to do it now, except that I think she was just really into her reading experience of this book. And so, you know, when I was at work, she decided to give it a read herself. And she consumed it. So I'm in the middle of that. And then yesterday, my book of the month book arrived, and I really wanted to start it, so I started it last night. And this is The Teller of Small Fortunes. I love that cover. It feels like a kid's book, but it's not. And I like that. So I'm reading all of those books at once. And and I am also listening to children's Christmas book. I don't remember what it's called, but it's about the Carol family, the Christmas carols. Mom's changed her name to Snow. I'm sure some of you have read this. It's a middle grade series. It's the first in middle grade series, and I am really enjoying it. So far, it is about the carols, the Carol family. They've moved from the countryside into a neighborhood because a house that they've been waiting for on a street that has like a really Christmassy name, it finally came on sale. So they purchased this, but it meant that they had to move. I don't know where this came from. This just fell out of one of my books. Anyway, they purchased this house so that they could have the most Christmassy home on the most Christmassy street and just create a Christmas like wonderland, which is kind of how they live their lives anyway. And the daughter, the oldest daughter, is having to go to school for the first time. She's been homeschooled her whole life, and she's having to go to school for the first time. And it's a rude awakening because, well, it's more of a rude awakening for everyone around her, not so much for her, but because she is motivated entirely by Christmas joy and Christmas giving and Christmas stuff. She doesn't understand that the world does not revolve around Christmas. And she's running right now. She's running for like a class leadership position, and she has to do it in conjunction with someone else. And so she's actually running with her table mate, which is a boy. And I think that he is a boy whose family doesn't have much money at all. And he's kind, and he sticks up for her when people are making fun of her and she doesn't quite understand that they're making fun of her. And he's supportive of her, and he's interested in her. This is a middle grade. I don't think it's romantic. Like, I think it's friendship, but he's interested in her, and they've shared lunch, and he brings like just a jelly sandwich, and she brings a turkey sandwich every day, a turkey sandwich with stuffing and mashed potatoes and all the works. She brings Christmas dinner every day for lunch. And she gets so excited that they get to exchange lunches because she's never had just a plain jelly sandwich, and he's hungry, you know? So it's a really lovely, funny, lighthearted book so far. I'm about halfway through, but I think that there's going to be a really good, warm-hearted, Christmassy turnaround for this boy. And I am listening to that one, so I won't finish that today, but it's in my head. Like, I'm really enjoying it. I'm really, really enjoying it. So now I'm going to dive into this stack of books and see what kind of progress I can make. Maybe I'll check in again before I go to this play tonight. I don't know. I never go out after dark. Rarely do I go out after dark. Everything I do, like I plan, like I do stuff with friends, but it's usually like lunch or coffee, brunch, go meet in a park or go take a walk in the woods. I don't generally like go to a play at night. Or matinees. I do matinees. So this it's just going to a high school play, but it feels like fancy. So I'll check in. You'll hear all about it. My fancy evening out. I'll talk to you soon. It'll be no time for you, but I don't know. It'll be a couple of hours or a few days. I don't know. I'll check in though. Hi, I am home from a Tuesday at work. We had a staff meeting after work today, which means it's very, very dark when I get home. It's so dark so soon right now. I know probably everybody feels that way, but it really strikes home when you normally get to leave school at about 3:30, 3:45, and then you have a staff meeting and you don't leave till after 5, and it's a totally different world out there. So I just got home and I want to talk about some of the books that I have finished. I've read so many books since I last checked in with you, but not that much time has passed. So it's just the 12th and I've already read 7 books this month. I'm really, really loving everything that I'm reading. So into this month. So here we go. I'm going to talk about, I'm probably going to talk fast because I'm hungry, but I wanted to do this before I changed and got comfortable and probably crawled into bed with a book. So I finished reading Stalking Shakespeare by Lee Durkee. This is a wild ride. This is such a wild ride. Part of it is wild because the world of Shakespearean portraiture is dark and deceptive. It just is dark and deceptive. There's a lot of people who have a lot of deep-seated reasons why they want to believe that one image is Shakespeare and another image is not. There's a lot of conspiracy around the image of this man, the identity of this man as well, as I lead my 8th graders today through a CSI, deep diving into the 6 known signatures of William Shakespeare. 3 documents, 6 signatures, none of them the same. It's just, and that's all we have. That's all of the handwriting we have of the man who supposedly penned the greatest, most influential literature of all time. So totally there right now in my head, and all the things that I'm thinking about focused very much on Shakespeare. So I was excited to read this very quickly this weekend. Lee Durkee is so vulnerable and so honest about who he is and the struggles that he has the struggles that lead him into just kind of poking around to try and decide, like, is this a Shakespeare portrait or is this not? He, at the time, is going through a divorce. He is working as a bartender. He's trying to maintain a relationship with his son. He's going through some substance abuse issues, some depression. He's got stuff going on. He does loads of gathering of information and research that he doesn't remember gathering. But then when he goes back, he discovers, oh, I actually did create a whole file on this, but because I was, taking illegal Adderall at gigantic doses, I don't remember. He's just very, very honest with you about the process that leads to the deceptively deep and supported and supportable research that he actually presents to you. So you've got this kind of seemingly unreliable feeling narrator who's actually quite reliable, telling you about what's going on in his life and how really looking for and trying to authenticate or debunk multiple wildly different portraits of Shakespeare kind of keeps him afloat. And it is fascinating. His life is fascinating. What he's going through is fascinating. And also, again, this deep, dark, wild, conspiracy-ridden world of Shakespeare portraiture is fascinating. So I absolutely loved my time with this. It is not going to be for everyone. He's not a trained Baroque and Elizabethan portraits. And his specialty is Shakespeare. Fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. Highly recommend this if you don't need more answers than questions. Love it. I finished You're Wiggling because Lola came to visit and she is running zoomies. She has so much energy. She has a whole hallway to run down and she knows that she can. But she doesn't want to leave me. So she's just running back and forth in the living room. Imagine how difficult it was to walk her home. She's still going. She's gonna chill now. Finished reading listening to my first Christmas read of the season, and that was super exciting. I got this from the library. It's a middle grade. It is called, I'll put it up here, I can't remember, it's something like Christmas with the Christmas Carols or Christmas with the Carols, something like that. It's the first book in a series, a middle grade series, about a family that, for reasons that become clear as the story progresses, they really want to make Christmas and the spreading of joy and cheer be the central impetus of everything that they do. And they have raised their children in a homeschool situation in a country house in England until the parents find out that this one house that they've been looking for on the street that has the perfect Christmassy name has finally come up for sale. So they buy it, but it means they're going to move into town. It means that they have to spend more money than they normally do, and that means that the mom needs to get a part-time job, and that means homeschooling is over. And so as a 10 or an 11-year-old, I don't remember her name, but the main character goes to school for the first time, and she's immediately struck with the lack of Christmas cheer, the lack of Christmas that is in this school and in these people's hearts. She is really motivated by wanting to spread Christmas cheer. She's really motivated by wanting to give and receive, yes, but more so give and show this loving spirit and make everybody happy. And her whole perception of how to do that revolves around Christmas, Christmas traditions, Christmas ideas, Christmas carols, Christmas activities. And of course, it's September and none of her classmates care. She makes a friend who is a little bit standoffish. He's her table mate. She gets assigned to be with him. And she gets assigned to try to run for class representative with him. They have to run in pairs. She's running on a ticket of Christmas cheer and he is I don't understand what's going on, but he's also very kind. He sees her heart and he wants to protect and support her, and things come out about him and his situation and how she sees and supports him. It's just beautiful, and I absolutely loved it. As I'm talking now, I feel like I kind of talked about this in the last check-in, but I hadn't finished reading it yet. So maybe I was just updating you on a book that I was reading. I don't remember. So if this is overlapping with that, hopefully it's new information. This was a really great book. I really loved it, and I'm going to read, there's 2 more in the series so far. I don't know if there will be more after that, but for the next 2 years, I'm going to read the second and then the third around this time, because it was very uplifting, very tender, warm-hearted, funny, very funny, and just the kind of thing you want to read at this time of year. So that was great. I finished A Fragile Enchantment by Allison Saft. I've tried to read other books by Allison Saft before and couldn't really get into them. In fact, I have one on my kind of forever TBR over there that I've put on a couple of different TBRs to read, usually in this month, usually in November. And I just haven't been able to get too far into them. But for whatever reason, I loved this one. I loved the characters. I loved the storytelling. It's a bit slow paced. And so it's perfect for the fall, for the autumn, or the winter season, although it doesn't necessarily take place in any particular season. There's a little bit of magic in this, not a ton of magic. It's very romance. It's very manners centered as far as the way that the society works. It's very reminiscent of England. It also, though, has a component to the story which I didn't feel was necessary. I think they could have done something a little less copycat-ish. It has one of those gossip rag storylines where you have an anonymous individual who's gossiping or sharing all of the gossip in a written periodical about the people. So it's like Gossip Girl, it's like Bridgerton, and it just feels, at this point, a little copycat-ish. I can't think of a better word at this time of day. I guess it's the sincerest form of flattery. I don't know. I didn't think that it was the only way that this part of the story could have happened. For that, I felt a little bit like, Allison Saft, you could do better. There are moments in this, which just, I reread multiple times because it's just so good. There's a wedding scene. So the prince's magic manifests itself through plants. I know that sounds weird, but it does make sense. At one point, there's a wedding happening, and the woman, he's marrying somebody who he's supposed to marry, but the woman who he actually loves, they lock eyes, and his emotions are so big for her that suddenly flowers start falling from the ceiling, and they blanket everyone, and it's so well written and it's so amazing. Hopefully that wasn't too much of a spoiler. I don't think it is. A lot happens after that. A lot happens before that too. It's just, there's some very good parts in this book, some very good parts. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. This is definitely going on one of my favorite reads of the year list. Not my number one book, but one of my favorites. Another book that's going on my favorite reads of the year is Millicent Quibb, School of Etiquette for Young Ladies of Mad Science by G. Edwina Candlestank, as told to Kate McKinnon. This is Kate McKinnon of Saturday Night Live, formerly of Saturday Night Live, of Ghostbusters, of a lot of things. She is hilarious, and she is in fine form in the writing of this book. I also listened to the audio as I read the book, and I think that is the way to go. Kate McKinnon narrates it, but there are all of these, I believe you get a PDF with it if you purchase it through Audible, but if you get it from the library, I don't think you get the PDF. So reading the book along with the audiobook is the way to go, because there's all sorts of diagrams all through. They're everywhere. I say that and then I can't find any more diagrams, but I promise you there's diagrams all through this book. There's also like interesting things that they do with the text. Also, this would make such a great Christmas gift. It's just beautiful underneath the dust cover, and the fly leaf art is beautiful. This is one of those kids' stories that A, is great for reading aloud, B, is hilarious, and C, has so much truth embedded within it. You have this character, Millicent Quibb, who's a mad scientist, and this whole town is terribly afraid. It's early 1900s in Antiquarium, Rhodachusetts, USA. Antiquarium, Rhodachusetts, in 1911. And it used to be the former capital of mad science of the Northern Hemisphere. But at the time of this book, everybody's terrified. And there's even a little scary children's rhyme. Heed my tale, I tell no fib. Beware the home of Millicent Quibb. She'll twist your skull until it's loose, then pickle your brain in lemon juice. Her hair is wild, her clothes are smelly, all coated with fish and rotted jelly. You needn't fear the witch's curse. Mad scientists like her are much, much worse. If you hope to grow up past 11, or have a birthday when you're 7, or even make it past the crib, beware the home of Millicent Quibb. Children's rhyme, Antiquarium and surrounding environs, 1911-ish. So we enter the story there, 1911-ish, with 3 sisters, the Porch sisters. They're not related, but they feel like sisters. And they've been kicked out of every etiquette school in the town. They receive, mysteriously, invitations to a new school of etiquette. And their family doesn't know what to do with them. Their adopted family or foster family doesn't know what to do with them. They're about to send them to Austria to some kind of military school. And they're like, but look, we got invited to this school. And so the family's like, okay, that's much cheaper than the other one. We'll go ahead and send you there and see how it goes. When they arrive, of course, it's the School of Etiquette for Young Ladies of Mad Science, run by the terrifying Millicent Quibb. Millicent Quibb is like a hybrid of Willy Wonka, Ms. Frizzle, and uncle in, what is it? The Series of Unfortunate Events. She is amazing. She's amazing. And she takes these three girls and says, okay, these are the clues I've seen. This is what I think is happening. This conspiracy is coming and it is going to wipe out the town, and only we know what's happening and only we can save it. And so I have to teach you these things. And they are wild and crazy things, but they're also critical thinking, heartfelt things. And it's just a beautiful, beautiful book. Can they save the town? Will these girls learn that they have value? Will they learn that they have value? So I actually tabbed it because there were some great quotes in here. Some of my favorite quotes. What to do when you can't change the world and you can't change yourself? One does grow weary, shimmying endlessly between a rock and a hard place. All she really wanted to know was, had a grown-up ever held her and been happy about it? Had she ever filled someone's heart with joy? Had she ever been, in any meaningful sense of the word, home? If it was so, she wanted to remember it so that she could feel it, even for a second. So she asks them what their passions are, the three girls. One of them responds, I suppose if threatened, which I am, I would say that I like rocks. Ah, wonderful. We'll put you down for gymistry. Millicent flicked her pointer at Dee Dee. You, with the toothpick. Your passion? Dee Dee calmly pulled the toothpick from her mouth. It is machines, sir. Ah, thank goodness, Millicent said. You can fix my refrigerator. I'll mark you as a physicist. Egg-saladant. Excuse me, madam, Gertrude whispered. Did you mean to say excellent? No, I meant to say egg-saladant. It is similar to excellent, but with more mayonnaise. Millicent turned to Gertrude. Speaking of, my dear Gertrude, what are your interests? Gertrude had plenty of interests. She wanted to open a hotel for injured camels. She wanted to join the cabinet of Mayor Majestina de Wien as Secretary of Insects' Rights. She wanted to invent a protective suit for slugs so that none would die of salt, but no one had ever responded to her dreams with anything other than groans and taunts, so she learned to keep them a secret. I don't know. Millicent's eyes rolled back until she was completely white. You don't know? She cocked her head to the left and peered at Gertrude. I would venture to guess that underneath all that ridiculous taffetine, you have a strong instinct for unnaturalism. The study of unnatural creatures? That's the field of mad science that I practice. I've spent my life finding, researching, and caring for these creatures. This might have sounded wonderful to Gertrude were she not so worried about her brain being candied. So they're not sure what to think of her. There are footnotes throughout, which are hilarious. This one, though, says, a squeeval is a type of ant that buries itself inside the details of lace curtains. The squeevils themselves are harmless, but you must ask yourself why they are there. For if you do, you will find that the squeevil's natural predator, the frith rat, is sick. And when a frith rat is sick, you need to get out of your house because they happen to fart carbon monoxide. The point is, everything is interconnected. And when one small thing is out of balance, typically there is a bigger problem somewhere. A problem that may prove deadly. They live in a house with multiple children, multiple girls, whose first name is all Lavinia. And the Lavinias don't necessarily interact with the Porches. So Gertrude looked over at her youngest cousin, who was barely 8 years old, and whose wispy blonde hair and nearly translucent skin gave her the appearance of an ear of corn that was too sickly to ever mature. Still, despite her humiliation, Lavinia Steve was trying valiantly to laugh at being called Lavinia Sneeze. Gertrude could relate to such things. She cast Lavinia Steve a kind smile, and Lavinia Steve smiled back, though her eyes were wet and red. I should try talking to Lavinia Steve sometime, Gertrude thought to herself. Maybe she's a little nicer than the rest of the Lavinias. But Gertrude put the thought away for later. She had a decision to make. And thus was the rhythm of life at the Millicent Quibb School of Etiquette for Young Ladies of Mad Science. Danger, laughter, laughter. Was their teacher a benevolent guide, or would she accidentally kill them all? Oh. Have you ever had to tell something troublesome to a powerful adult? Did you know that it's actually listed as one of the top 10 scariest things that you could ever have to do? Right up there with giving blood, fleeing a country, and fishing a wedding ring out of a hornet's nest. Because even if what you're saying is true, the powerful adult might not believe you. And you just have a vague sense that somehow you might end up getting in even more trouble because you bothered to speak up in the first place. I hate that. Anyhow, that's exactly how she felt. This is a gem. This is a gem. Would be so great to read with your kids. Would be so great to read on your own. Would be so great to just place into the hands of children. Another favorite read of the year, and it's going to be a series, and I will definitely continue on with the series. As each one comes out, I will happily pre-order these. They are so, so good. Okay, that's it. That's my check-in. That's my update. I've read so much so far. I am currently reading way too many books and loving every single one of them but one. But I'm gonna give the one I'm not loving a little more time. I think it might just be a slow start. But I'll check in more with you soon. Later. I need to eat now. Bye. I have been filming just a ton of videos for Video Every Day in December, and I want to film my last little bit for my wrap up here. This has been such a weird reading month. Genuinely bizarre month in general. I have read quite a few books and I've really enjoyed them. I think the last one I talked to you about was Millicent Quibb. I may be missing a couple of books in between Millicent Quibb and where I'm going to start today, but I think not. I think I'm okay. I finished Spark of the Everflame, the Kindred's Curse saga, book 1 by Penn Cole, and this was good. The tone was really weird. The tone was off. It felt like it was supposed to have been written in or it felt like it should be taking place, something about it felt like it should be taking place in Rome, Roman times, but then it also kind of felt like it was steampunk. I don't know. It was very strange. At the same time, I did enjoy it and I do want to know what's going to happen next, but I just feel like the writing was really weird. And I wonder if, because this is the original, this is a copy of the original self-published version, and now they're being traditionally published, and I wonder if an editor has kind of helped with some of the weirdness in the tone. We shall see. We shall see, because the second and third book I will read, and I will have to read them in the, or I will choose to read them in the traditionally published and just kind of get a feel for that. I want to know what happens This ends on a huge, not a cliffhanger, but like an upswing. I want to know what happens, but I also just feel like it's bad writing. It's really bad writing. Okay, I'm just gonna stop there. But yeah, this was a fun reading experience. I read Neveu's The City in Glass, and this was beautiful. But I feel the same way about this as I do about everything Neveu writes that I have read. And that is that it's too much of a fever dream. It's not maintainable. It's too much smoke and mirrors and not enough substance. The basic premise of this is that there is a demon who has built this city. It's taken a very long time, and they take a lot of pride in it and in their way. Like, the demon can't love, but in its way, it loves the city and the city's inhabitants. And a batch of angels are sent to destroy this city in fire and brimstone, and in trying to keep the main angel from, like, in trying to intimidate the main angel, the demon does a deep scratch across his chest and implants like some sorrow, some angst, some sadness in his chest. So they do destroy it, and the demon immediately begins to try and think of like how to rebuild. Took eons for it to build this thing, and now it's going to have to start over again. And so it's doing that, and in the meantime, this angel, because of what's implanted in its heart, it's rejected from returning home, even though it's accomplished its task, until it can deal with the sorrow that's been left behind. But in order to do that, it has to help this demon deal with it, and the demon is kind of like, that's what it's made of. And so it's a really interesting premise. Really, really like the premise. Like the writing, it's beautiful, but there's not enough there to maintain it. So I know it's very short, but still too long. I will continue to read Neveu because those premises get me, but I wish someone else were writing these premises. Like, I wish that there was more substance to this writing, that it wasn't just a pretty phrase. There's so much that is frustrating about my reading experience with anything that Neveu writes, because I just want the story, but I can't get the story. I'm wading through all of this like self-important, indulgent darlings that should be killed and replaced with like something tangible. So yeah. I love the premise. I love certain turns of phrase, but I want something more. I read The Teller of Small Fortunes. I'll be keeping this on my shelf because it is one of my favorite covers of all time. I just think this book is so absolutely gorgeous, but the way that the story is told just did not work for me. And I struggled with trying to figure that out, because on paper, this book should be perfect for me, but I was really like, I almost DNF'd it 3 times. And then just kept going back going, nope, let's finish it. I think what I settled on is it feels too much like short stories. There's no actual setting because they're going to a different location in every chapter. So and the characters themselves are not well developed enough to be an anchor for me. Because although there is a through story, there's like also just little vignette stories. So it's a little bit like Pickwick Papers. Although Pickwick Papers went the opposite direction. It started out this way, and then it got very like not settled in setting, but in a time period very clearly. The world building was very clear. And the world building is an afterthought. And so there's not like a clear setting to anchor me. There aren't really strong characters to anchor me. Pickwick has both of those things. Maybe not a physical location, but a time period and characters that are very, very solid. This has neither. And so each chapter felt like an individual short story, and I never quite I felt like I was starting again every time. And I'm not a short story reader. And so I think that is where myself and this book disconnected. It is very cozy, almost to the point of boredom inducement, in my opinion. But if you're looking for something cozy and you don't mind short stories, that might be the book for you. It just was not the book for me. Again, I will keep it because it's one of the most beautiful books I own. When the power went out, I could no longer supplement reading time with audio. And so I was really forced to just read. So I pulled this, which I've been trying to read all year, off my shelf. There's no audio for this. It was the perfect time. This is Lady Carolyn Lamb by Antonia Fraser, and I'm really glad that I read this. This was maybe a favorite read of the year. I'm going to put it on that shelf for now, tentatively. This is a slim little volume. It is about Carolyn Lamb, who famously still is famously known as the lover of Lord Byron. And she's known for being unpredictable and wild and maybe a little immoral. But this book does such a beautiful job of addressing the fact that she is a human being, and that 200 years after her death, we still only really focus on the gossip and not the person herself. And so this really gives, it holds history accountable for the way in which her story is told, the way in which any story is told about women, when women are not behaving the way society would like them to behave. It does not make her a sympathetic character, but you can see immediately that there's so much more to this woman than meets the eye. That gossip is not the end-all be-all, and that even her relationship with Byron was something different from what we know today, because Byron controlled that, for the most part, Byron controlled that narrative. And of course, no one ever loved Byron. I mean, everybody loved Byron, but they loved to hate him. He had his own issues, much bigger than Carolyn Lamb's. And we are aware of those today. If you're not, that makes for interesting reading. But this book establishes Carolyn Lamb as a real round human being. It gives a portrait of a really loving marriage that she had. It was an open marriage because all the women around her, in her family, her mother included, since the dawn of time, her Aunt Georgiana, who I just read earlier this year and is definitely on my favorite reads of the year, but just read a biography of her. This is a family that they had a plethora of what were referred to as children of the mist, like illegitimate children that other family members just kind of raised. So she's growing up in this kind of amoral society anyway among her family, and especially among the women of her family. And the thing that makes her different and makes her stand out is that she feels so passionately about what she feels passionate about that she can't hide it. So it's not her actions that get her bad reputation, it's the visibility of her actions that gets her the bad reputation. If she wanted to be Lord Byron's mistress, she could have been without any complication if she would have just shut up about it, which is so wrong. She's also an incredibly intelligent woman. She's so amazingly intelligent, and we only think of her moments of passionate exchange, like her moments of explosion. She also had a special needs son, the only child she had that lived, and she and her husband both refused to send him away. They raised him into adulthood. He was probably, now they think, I mean, it's always dangerous to diagnose somebody, in the past, like a historical figure, but they really think that most likely he had autism and epilepsy. And they refused to send him away at a time when that would have been the thing to do, and when there was a lot of pressure from her in-laws to send him away. But no, they raise him. They raise him and they love him and they give him as normal a life as possible. They believe in him until the very, till she passes away. It's a really, really impactful story, and I'm really glad that I read it. And if you are not familiar with Carolyn Lamb, I strongly suggest you pick that up. Antonia Fraser does a great job of writing about her in a really balanced way. I finished Tidelands by Philippa Gregory. Oh, this book. This takes place during Charles I, the end of Charles I's reign. So he was king after James. James was king after Elizabeth. There is all of the Catholic versus Protestant war stuff going on. And there is a young man, a 22-year-old priest who was raised and harbored in France as a Catholic, and he's coming over to try to help the imprisoned King Charlie, who is possibly he is going to be beheaded. Like history is history. I was going to try and not say it, but he's going to be beheaded, and they're trying to help him before that happens. Before that sentence passes. So he's traveling in England undercover, and he gets helped by this woman, this 27-year-old woman who is a single mother. Her husband has disappeared. She doesn't know if he's dead or alive. When they meet, she is trying to see if she can feel his dead spirit in the graveyard on this one certain night. So she's trying to get answers as to whether or not her husband is dead or alive, whether he left them or has died. And because she hasn't heard from him, and she's kind of stuck in limbo as this single woman. She can't do anything to better her own life because she's supposed to belong to this husband who doesn't exist, but who exists enough that he keeps her from remarrying, he keeps her from being a widow, he keeps her from just all sorts of things. She has a 14-year-old daughter and a younger son, and the daughter is really intelligent, kind of a spitfire, works really hard. She's about to fall in love and want to marry above her station. And so this woman and this priest meet, and it's an instant attraction, and they fall in love, and that's going to lead to all of these things are going to combine, and more are going to combine to a point where this woman is accused of witchcraft. And what will happen from there? So this story ends, again, very much like Curse of the Everflame? Spark. Very much like Spark of the Everflame. It ends not on a cliffhanger, but on like an upswing. And I am so excited that I have the second and third book in this trilogy, so that I can just keep plugging forward, because I need to know what happens next. Even if I don't read the whole book in December, because I have so many books that I want to read in December, I will probably just read enough of the beginning of the second book to tide me over until January. I also finished Emily's Quest. This is the third book in the Emily of New Moon series by Ellen Montgomery, third and final book. It is the shortest of the three, and it does have the absolute most stuff happen in it. In this book, Emily becomes engaged to Dean Priest for a short amount of time. She gets hurt, she gets injured, and she almost loses the use of her legs. She has an out-of-body telepathic experience with Teddy Kent that saves his life. I'm just giving you all spoilers here. Teddy almost marries Ilsa Burnley. So many things happen in this book. You need to read it. You need to read it. I love this series. Definitely love it even more than I love Anne of Green Gables, and my love for Anne knows no bounds. It is the end of the month. It's the last day of the month when I'm recording this. I listened to Juniper, what is it called? Juniper Bean Resorts to Murder, which was a real win. I'll put a little picture here. This was a Kindle book. I had it on Kindle and on audio. The audio is great. This is hilarious. It's about a woman in a small town. She writes books, but they always turn into murder mysteries, and she gets a new roommate, Aiden, and they of course fall in love over the course of this story. It is closed door, if that's important to you. In fact, I think all they do is kiss. She writes murder mysteries, but in this small town that they live in, they come face to face with a dead body, and so they also have to solve a murder mystery, and it's just funny and well written and strong characterization and a fun romance, and I couldn't figure it out. It was a lot of fun. highly recommend. Let's see, I feel like there's something else. Oh, I've listened to the Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee book. This is, it says it's by Jerry Seinfeld, but it's not really by Jerry Seinfeld. It is kind of one of those histories that I've kind of gotten into of TV shows. I fell in love with this style. I had never seen it before, but I realize now there are a lot of them. I fell in love with this style when I read the book about the Big Bang Theory, where the author had interviewed everybody separately over the course of years and brought all the information together and created a cohesive narrative using individual isolated interviews. Well, this is very similar to that. I've since read one in that vein about Grey's Anatomy, and now I've read this one. And this was fun, especially to listen to, but it won't stick with me. It wasn't super impactful for me. Did I talk about Dinner with Vampires by Bethany Joy Lenz yet? I don't know if I did or not, but I read that. I read it in one day and I absolutely loved it. As I'm saying this, I actually think I have talked about this. If I haven't, you need to read Dinner for Vampires by Bethany Joy Lenz. It is one of the greatest memoirs that I've read in a long time. Definitely going to be a favorite read of the year. Is that it? I'm looking at my list here. I think that is everything that I actually finished. I do have 2 books that are on the go that I will finish in the next day or 2. One is The Heartless Hunter by Kristen Cicerelli. I have just a little under half left of this book, and the text in here is huge, and it's a very quick read, and I have it on audio, so I definitely will finish this either today or very soon. And what I'm going to say about this is the blood magic grosses me out big time. Really, really learning. I am not into a blood magic sort of system, but I am enjoying the slow burn between Rune and Gideon, although I really feel like she should be in love with the brother because he's so lovely. Yeah, I've already suggested this to a couple of my students who I know would enjoy it. It is, I'd say, a little bit old, like on the older side of young adult. I don't think it's new adult, at least not yet anyway. And I will definitely read the second book in this duology. I think it's just a duology. But I was hoping that I would have loved this as much as I've loved other recent YA duologies like Divine Rivals, Witch Hunt, Anatomy. I had some real wins this year with duologies, and I was really hoping this would be another one, and it's not quite there, but the book's not over yet. The book's not over yet. I just don't feel like the writing is the same standard as the writing in these other duologies that I've loved this year. But it's okay. It's okay. I'm enjoying it. I'm having a fun time, and I could see myself rereading it, but I will definitely recommend it to students if it doesn't get too crazy with the spice. And then I said that I was going to give this one a last try. I have tried to read this book so many times, and each time I have disliked it or I have DNF'd it. And for whatever reason, I picked this up yesterday, and I'm absolutely, absolutely into it and cannot wait to finish this book. I am reading A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas and absolutely loving it, and I don't know who I am anymore. I will definitely finish this. If not today, then tomorrow for sure. Before, like maybe on the 1st of December, I'll finish this, but I am loving this so much. I don't know why I couldn't get into it before, because I cannot not get into it now. It's just one of those things where it's just one of those things that reminds me that you definitely need, if you give up on a book or a series or an author, it's okay to go back and try them again, because you are a different person. Your situation is different. Your attention span is different. What you're interested in is different. I'm just eating that book up right now. I am absolutely loving it. I had to force myself to stop reading it so that I could do other things. I just am really, really into it, and I don't know what happened. As you can tell, my throat is kind of messed up. If you couldn't tell, then I don't know who you've been listening to all these years. But yeah, throat's kind of messed up. Got 3 weeks until Christmas break. Gonna just cross my fingers and try to get through it. It's my favorite time of year to be a teacher. I love the energy. I love the festiveness and the happiness, and just even kids that don't celebrate Christmas, they just feel like excited about winter coming. There's the possibility of snow days coming, just all sorts of fun things. There's just anticipation in the air all over the place, and it is my favorite time of year. November was hard. November was a really hard month. Lots of really rough things happened in the month of November. Some of them very easy to talk about, like power outages for days and getting really sick, stuff happening at work, and other things happened as well. And November will go down for me in my personal history. November 2024 was a doozy of a month, and I personally am glad that it's over, but I also read some of the best books I've read all year in this month, and for that I am sincerely grateful. December is going to be better. December is going to be better. We're going to end the year on a high note, and we're going to go out with joy, and we are going to go into 2025 fresh and new with as little 2024 baggage as possible. So that is the goal, and I will see you a lot in December, because I am going to post a video every day in the month of December. So let's go read.